The good folks at Comics for Fun and Profit have been doing 2 episodes a week for quite some time now, and it's all thanks to, first of all, Jason, and second of all, our patrons who allow us to add the space on our server, broadcast more, store more, share more with you, the listeners. I'm envious of those of you who have unlimited storage and media server capabilities. We pay for ours here at the C4 FAP. It ain't cheap. We thank you so much for those of you who go to patreon.com/comicsfunprofit and contribute at any level to say thanks, to say, I want to be a part of your Slack channel conversations. I want to get exclusives. I want to get early access. I want to get ad-free access. I want to get swag. I want to get some free stuff. Whatever your reasoning is, we appreciate it at any level because it does make a difference. So from the bottom of Kyle and I and Jason's heart, thank you for contributing. Time for a break from our show to pay the bills. Check out beacons.ai/comicsfunprofit for all the C4 FAP links you could ever need, all in one place. You can provide feedback, listen, support, share, enjoy these. We have our Patreon there. You can buy us a beer or a coffee. You can check out our Instagrams, our Twitters, our Facebooks. Check out our YouTube page. You can email us. You can listen to our podcasts on Patreon, if you're a subscriber, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on Podbean. We have Google Podcasts on there. We have an Amazon wish list. You want to buy Kyle and I something? Fine. You can do that here. We appreciate it. We have Kyle's RPG podcast listed on there, so you can check out his Dork Day Afternoon offerings. We have Cowabunga links, so you can check out the Cowabunga Deep Discount FOC and pre-order list. Get on that. That's RLCS, so you can check that out as well. And we want to just give you opportunities to say hi, to check out what we're doing, support us if you would like, or just listen. Check out beacons.ai/comicsfunprofit for all the C4 FAP links you could ever need. Thanks. Back to the show.
Aloha, this is Jason from Hawaii. Welcome to a special edition of the Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. And I want to thank listeners for listening to my bad interview. So I know someone out there is going, oh, but seriously, this is going to be a fun episode. I have Russell, Bryce Ingman, Peter Krause. They are friends of the podcast. They are here to promote My Bad Volume 2. Now, the first issue is out in stores right now, and I believe issue 2 comes out on December 28th. Like I said, this is going to be a very fun episode. To me, My Bad series is a nice parody of superhero comics that we all love. It has everything from someone recognizing Jamington Winthorpe's voice as the Chandelier to a who's page description of who Acid Chimp is. Bryce, Peter, and Mark, welcome back to Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Doing great.
Fine.
Good to see you, Jason.
Yes. And then listeners, I'm sorry, I before we started, me, Peter, Mark, and Bryce, we're already talking about the series. So now you guys, now we're finally recording, we're getting everything on, and yeah, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Now, of course, like I said, Bryce, Mark, and Peter, they have written My Bad Volume 1, Important New Superhero Universe Trade. Now, that is in stores right now. If you are interested, please ask your LCS to order you a copy. I love it because it pokes fun at the superhero genre. Now, before we begin the interview, I want to give a big shout out to Hannah Bahedri of Superfan Promotions for setting up this interview and for advance reading copy of My Bad Volume 2, issue number 1. So Hannah, thank you very much. Bryce, Mark, and Peter, would you guys like to add anything to that?
Now, Hannah does a lot of great publicity work, not only for My Bad, for a lot of titles that I work on for Ahoy and for other companies. So she's great. Shout out to Hannah.
Yes.
And the trade and the trade, which is out, I think Ahoy did a really nice job with the trade. All of the extras, including the crazy letter column, bad words, it's all there. Every bit of the fun from the floppies is there in that trade.
Yeah, one of the things they let us do for this series, which I think makes it a little different than most comics, is they let us take over all of the extras. So, like, most comics you read, you see like ads for things. They let us like actually make fake ads. They let us make things that are relevant to the story, which really sort of underscores the idea, the sensibility that this is a separate universe, where the regular rules of superhero comics do not apply, but it has its own sort of logic. One of the things they let me do, which I just loved doing, was you remember those old ads they used to have in the backs of comic books where they sold all the like toys that didn't work, like the X-ray specs and the sea monkeys and stuff. They let me do a page like that of my own little ads that I made up, which was really fun. And yeah, it goes back to what you say. This is kind of a love letter to comics. It's sort of like us drawing upon the memories that we had of reading comics when we were kids, but also the questions we had in the back of my life, like, wait a minute. How does nobody understand that this is actually, Superman? Or how does nobody, it's like it's about those questions we all had as kids when we we're reading these comics, and also about the joy we had while reading.
Yes, no, and that's true. It's the joy of reading the comics that we all love. Actually, I'm gonna and then I'm going to also let listeners know that Peter Krause is also the artist for the My Bad series. So, so Peter, did you have fun drawing at least the first volume, and now you're working on the second volume? How do you like working?
As far as what I'm working on right now, I'm just finishing up the last half a dozen pages of the last issue of the second volume. I think, can we keep all these numbers straight? So yes, so the My Bad trade volume 1, which is out in stores, and then now we're on the second series of 5 issues.
Yes.
With the first one just coming out and the second one coming out later this month. As far as doing the stories, I think what I have to say is that the stories are very dense, and not in an Alan Moore, like everything that happens within a panel is spelled out over a whole page. But we have so many little, in jokes, change of locations, number of characters, character designs. You really have to be on, top of your game to continue to make it all work. It's been a real challenge, but a lot of fun. And certainly have freedom with these kind of costumes, just because they can be a little goofy, and that allows you to play with it a little bit.
Now, I'm going to ask this question as basically for new listeners who may not know what, My Bad is about, especially for volume 1. So, and I'm going to start off, and I'm going to, and anyone can jump in, but I'm going to say either Mark, Bryce, and Peter, for our new listeners, can you guys tell us what is the first volume about? Just for the new listeners.
The simplest way I can say it is that Emperor King, this the super villain of the first volume, one of the main characters, he has 2 ideas. One of them is to create a trap to catch his arch nemesis, the Accelerator, and torture him to death. And his other plan is to try to mess with the Chandelier by sending a salad shooter to his secret identity. And one of these plans works better than the other.
Oh my God, yes, it does.
Yeah, if the half that I write that just follows the Chandelier is about him getting the salad shooter in the mail for his birthday, and then it just messing with his head for the rest of the series. Like, he'll be fighting crimes or whatever, and like thinking, does this mean that Emperor King knows my secret identity? The fact that he sent me the salad shooter for my birthday, and it sort of, he begins sort of like obsessing over it to the point where it takes over his life. The fact that his secret identity might be known by this villain because of the salad shooter. And he thinks the salad shooter at first might be a bomb, so he takes it into like his little bat cave and has it analyzed, and the results come back, no, it's just the salad shooter. But it's the real bomb is what Emperor King set off in his mind, in his imagination. And it's sort of like, leads. There's two stories told from two separate different characters' perspectives that lead to like a big conflict at the end.
Yeah, and I just want to add that for the overall picture of it, it obviously with the setups that Bryce and Mark have talked about, it spins off into more characters, a kind of a whole group of people that get involved. So it is, as some reviewer put it, a kind of comic that superhero fans can love, and people who hate superheroes, they can also love this because they can see the parodying of it. But at the same time, there's an affection for these superhero comics that we grew up with.
Oh yes. Mark, I'm going to ask you this question. How did you come up with the Chandelier? Because I'm trying to remember from our first interview. I don't think I ever asked. I can't remember if I asked you that. But how did you come up with the Chandelier, the characters of Chandelier?
Well, I think the obvious sort of parody source is Batman, and his storylines I've written have tended to be sort of like pitches I've made for Batman stories over the years to DC, which have been politely denied. I originally pitched the idea of like the Joker when Batman and Catwoman were going to get married. I originally pitched the idea of the Joker mailing Bruce Wayne a salad shooter as a wedding present, and then how that messes with Batman's head. But I got the sort of not in a million years reply from DC, so they turned down. So I used it. And also, I think one of the things that like one of those, well, how could nobody know thoughts I had as a kid? It was like, how could nobody know that the billionaire who owns like this defense industry corporation is the one with like a tank and like a jet and like all of these high-tech military? It's like, what do you think? It's somebody working at a Radio Shack? So that I put that into this comic because his family, he's like the heir to like a lamp fortune, and yet all of his like vehicles and his secret laboratory are all lamp related. Like his lab is called the Lampratory, and he has like a submarine called the Lamprey, and his flying ship is called the Nightlight. So it's like how nobody could put it together that the guy who owns this lamp factory isn't also the guy who's like going out at night as this sort of lamp-based vigilante. Is sort of what's parodied. But yeah, it's a lot of it is like sort of a Batman parody, I guess I would say.
And then Bryce, oh actually wait, I'm sorry, Mark, let me go back to you. And I'm just curious, and I am not being disrespectful to Adam West, but when you wrote the Chandelier, did you kind of ever hear Adam's West voice in writing the story?
It's funny you should say that, because I imagined like a very dry Adam West, or like like not him, like sort of old chum, sort of friendly, but sort of like a very dry, almost dismissive, almost like a somebody who I wouldn't go as far as like a Leslie Nielsen type of delivery.
God. Yes.
But that sort of thing where it's just like somebody doesn't realize that what they're saying is funny.
Off the cuff question, and anyone can jump in, or all of you guys can jump in, because when you mentioned Leslie Nielsen, and it just hit me after I read the trade yesterday was, oh my God, this is kind of like Police Squad in the 1980s, the TV show.
Thank you. It's a nice compliment.
Yeah.
That was that was a like sort of a watershed for me as a kid, like watching that. It was like the funniest. I think it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen at that time, and it just completely knocked down all the walls and the rules of like comic storytelling.
Oh yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off the cuff here because I don't know how they kept up with each episode. You know, I mean, like, you know, the funny part where Leslie Nielsen and his you know, where, you know, he turns to where, you know, Frank Drebin turns to his partner, goes, all right, man, you know, they're doing the shootout. All right, cover me. And he throws that overcoat over Leslie Nielsen. He's fumbling around. Shots are being fired, and you know, he's not being hit. He stumbles into rubbish cans, you know, and in the end, it's like, you know, the coat comes off and already the guy's arrested, you know, and it was just great.
Yeah, and it's not like Police Squad in the sense that it's that same sort of, you know, literal versus figurative sense of humor, but it is like Police Squad and stuff where it takes place in its own universe, where the sorts of things that seem absurd to us make total sense to them.
Yes. Okay. Bryce and Peter, do you guys want to add anything to that?
I just think it's a straighter version of Police Squad. I mean, we're in on the joke as the readers, but like Mark said, you know, these characters, all this stuff is very, very serious to them.
Yes.
Yeah. And when I write the characters, I'm not writing. I mean, I'm conscious of trying to be funny and make jokes, but I'm not writing joke characters, right? I care about Emperor King and Acid Chimp and Rush Hour and all of them, you know, and I think that's reflected in the way Pete draws the book too. Is you know, we get, you know, real angst on their faces when they wince. They really are feeling it. Whereas, you know, in a Naked Gun or a Police Squad world, everyone's a little bit more of a cartoon, you know, than in My Bad. But I think that what Mark said about the world being this kind of slightly off-center world is very similar to My Bad.
This is a perfect segue for my next question to you, Bryce. How did you come up with the Emperor King, or was it Mark that came up with the Emperor King? I came up with Emperor King. That you know, the whole My Bad started when I had the idea for the torture trap and the wrong superhero being caught in the torture trap. That was the initial idea that everything's, you know, grew out of. So I needed the supervillain to capture someone in his trap, and I decided I wanted, you know, sort of the Doctor Doom kind of, I want to take over the planet kind of guy. And then I delighted myself when I came up with the idea of his actual name being Drew King. And so Emperor King is actually just like, you know, it'd be Emperor Jones or Emperor Gonzalez or whatever. Just I was very tickled by the idea that Emperor King was just his surname with Emperor tacked in front of it. And then it just kind of grew from there, I have to say. There was no particular source like Batman or anything for that character. And then, Peter, I'm going to ask you, how did you come up with the design for the Chandelier and let's say the Emperor King?
Well, I think we might have talked about this last time we were interviewed, but initially when I drew, I mean, I knew we were riffing off of Batman. So, you know, kept the color scheme similar.
Yes.
But originally he had a, you know, kind of a chandelier on top of his head. It wasn't draped down over his face. And I think Bryce made a comment, well, the guy said, hey, you know, that looks fine and everything, but Bryce made a comment about, geez, what it would be like if he had his face covered.
Yeah.
So I redrew the version and what we have now. And Kelly Fitzpatrick, our colorist, when she saw it, you know, she doesn't always chime in a lot with our stuff, but she said, cool. So I wasn't going to go ahead against anything that Kelly might have suggested was a good way to go. And it's funny.
Mhm.
I mean, his face is covered. I mean, how does he see? You know,
Yes.
that's it's probably as absurd as what Mark was talking about nobody being able to figure out, you know, who he is.
Mhm.
As far as Emperor King, playing around with a few different things, but ultimately came up with the idea of him being kind of a cross between Ginny Olsen and Alfred E. Newman.
Oh,
And
yes.
I must admit, as I've drawn him more, he is getting less and less handsome. And I think that's for the better.
Mhm.
Yes.
And then, you know, just a crazy type of crown. I was playing around with different headgear, and that one, the one, he doesn't always wear it, and he's kind of retired it now. But
Mhm.
it's pretty over the top. It's more like I guess, a caricature of a bishop's hat.
Mhm.
So yeah, those are the kind of things you just kind of play around with it, and you come up with something. But yeah, cross between Jimmy Olsen and Alfred E. Newman.
Oh, okay. All right. And let's see. Okay, so all right. Thank you for that. Now, listeners, we're going to start moving into My Bad Volume 2. Now, Bryce, Mark, and Peter, what is the story about in Volume 2?
Well, again, there's sort of like volume one, there's two things going on that sort of dovetail together. The first thing going on is that there's like a pizza delivery assassin who's going around, who's targeting superheroes, but is unfortunately, because they don't really know where any superheroes actually live, are showing up at the houses of people with names that are similar to superheroes and shooting regular people. Like his first victim is named Mort Spitterman, who he thinks is like Spider-Man.
Yes.
And then like eventually shows up at the Supperman's, you know, house. But it's about like how the fact that he's sort of this incompetent assassin makes him really difficult to catch, because you never know, because he's never where you think he would be, because he's always at the wrong place. And then the other one, which the other sort of plot which drives this, is that the fallout from the first issue of the Chandelier sending these lizard heavies to go attack the planet of Drixen. That kind of comes back to haunt him and the rest of the planet.
Oh. Okay. And then
And on that other side of the book, and like Mark said, everything dovetails just like the first season. And there's actually more, I would say, crossover between the stories than the first season. But on the Emperor King side of the book, he finds out that there's a dating app for superheroes. And he's attracted to some of the female superheroes. So he ends up buying the armor of an actual superhero who wants to retire, kind of an Iron Man type, called Steel Integrity, and taking on that superhero identity so he can date superhero women. And that's, you know, much like we were talking about with volume one, you know, that's his plan. That's what he's trying to do, but things get off track fairly quickly.
And then I'm gonna say, like, already, you know, you guys already introduced the new character in this volume, and I'm just calling him the pizza delivery killer. I'm just asking, is this a riff on Stiltman? Because we see him.
I have no idea who Stiltman is, but it was just sort of like again, the idea sort of like with the you know, with a lot of the ideas that I come up with in this series are just like, well, what is the stupidest, most mundane thing that would cause everybody problems?
Yes.
Like a salad shooter being sent to like somebody's real address, or this guy shows up trying to assassinate heroes, but he never gets any actual heroes, so it becomes like sort of impossible to ambush.
Now, Mark came up with a rough sketch of how he wanted the pizza assassin to appear.
Yes.
but not necessarily is what he really was looking like. And so given what Mark gave me, I was trying to figure out, okay, how can I get something to work in a semi-realistic fashion where the character actually was within this costume.
Yes.
And as I don't want to spill too much for readers who haven't seen it, but let's just say that we made the character somewhat short of stature.
Yes.
So, and yes, you were very good at realizing that there is a point where he's taking off his costume. And I was trying to figure out how to make him taller. And I was thinking, and I actually went online and looked at, what are they called? Like when you're putting up drywall.
Oh, yes.
Or,
Yeah.
you know, those drywall extensions.
Yes.
Or that, you know, construction guys would use. So yes, this character has that inside the costume as well. So. So that might have led you to the stilt man analogy. I never even thought of that until you brought that up. So
I'm not going to try to give it too much away, but when I saw that panel, I was I was just kind of laughing at that already.
Good. That's what we want.
And then Bryce, for your story with Emperor King, who bought the identity of Steel Integrity, he's dating someone named Good Karen. I'm afraid to ask, is it based off of someone? A family member?
No,
a church member who's because her costume is pretty
on a specific person.
Are-
It's really based on me thinking, having the thought, boy, it must be hard for people that women that have the name Karen, now that it's become an insult to call someone a Karen. And so, okay, what would that be like if that was someone's superhero origin, right? That instead of their parents being shot by a criminal, that it's that they're tired of people, you know, calling them a Karen or making fun of the fact that their name is Karen. And then, you know, the twist being that she is kind of a Karen. And her name is Karen. But she's been really fun. And one of the things that I wanted to accomplish with the second season was to, you know, balance things out a little bit, because it was a very boy heavy book in the first season. There weren't very many female characters.
That's right.
And so, yeah, both Mark and I, you know, kind of added some female characters to the mix this season.
And then off the cuff question mark, and Bryce, that's right, because you guys also included a new character, it was Amazon, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So
And basically her role is she's sort of this Wonder Woman figure who shows up to like catch the pizza assassin, and really kind of is like a much more competent version of what the Chandelier thinks he is. So she knows how to use like a supercomputer, and she like comes up with some like actually plausible plans to catch the pizza assassin. And Chandelier is a little miffed about her sort of like taking over what he imagined his role would be, sort of the leader of this gallery of superheroes to catch the pizza assassin. So he resolves that he's going to be the one to catch the pizza assassin. So he just starts kidnapping every pizza delivery person he comes by, thinking one of these guys has got to be the pizza assassin. Which, you know, as Bryce says, the plans usually don't work out the way they have intended.
Peter, I'm going to ask you, for this second volume, actually, I'm going to ask you this directly. It's like, how did you come up with this design for Good Karen and Amazon?
Amazon, like Mark said, that was pretty straightforward. Okay. It's definitely, I mean, from the name of the character, we're definitely ripping off of that kind of Wonder Woman icon type, but wanted to, again, we're talking about, even though, the comics that I grew up with and that we grew up with, were pretty white, male heavy.
Yeah.
To do a direct parody of that would be pretty boring. So yes, so she's diverse. I think of her as being somewhere from the Mediterranean, probably North Africa. But I think Mark had in his description that she would wear furs and skins. I do like the idea of like a leather tunic that's rather tight, but then the kind of the funny riff on what Mark said. She's just got this big fur skirt that's there's nothing glamorous or sexy about that at all. It's just this big fur pelt that she has belted around her waist. I think try to do something a little fun with each of these designs. As far as Good Karen goes, Bryce did have a photograph of a particular hairstyle that he wanted on the character. And then it was just riffing off of that. She's got maybe a little bit of it. That was a very fun design because it's kind of a mishmash of a bunch of different things. She's got the kind of the yellow Jubilee almost kind of jacket. But then that her top is a very, I would say, East Coast Yaley kind of pink sweater with, blue collar and a little diamond drop necklace. Then flare pants, because if you're a comic book artist, flare pants are the funnest things in the world to draw. So why not draw those with stars and high heels? And then the Good Karen logo was so easy. Once Bryce kind of gave me the lowdown on the character, just having that small K with a halo that's just a little bit crooked. I just said, this is I was very, very happy with that. She's an incredibly fun character to draw.
Yes, and it's because for me it's like she's the breakout character of this to me already of the first issue. And I'm not going to spoil it, but when I read her origin, oh my God, it was it was funny. I mean, I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't read it, but oh my God, there's just some lines in there. Okay.
Your laughter is a good review, Jason. So thank you.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
don't sleep on Amazing Adams. Amazing
Right.
Adams is like one of my favorite characters in the series. It's basically John Adams but incredibly ripped and muscular and shirtless.
Okay.
So I think that's one of the characters that always makes me laugh whenever I see him. Amazing Adams.
Is he an issue? Is he coming in any of the future issues, or I may have missed him?
He was teased. He was teased in one of the extras in season 1, and he starts popping up in the main story in issue 2 of this season. So what comes out next week?
All right, I'll keep an eye out for that. Now, before I move on, I'm joking on this part because I know, like you said, that this pizza delivery killer, he's an inept assassin. He's going around killing wrong people who have sort of superhero last names. There's a panel. Peter, you drew it perfectly. I'm just joking. I don't know what you guys mean by the actual Vindicator,
Yeah, who could that be? Who could that be based on?
I don't know. It's
the character that every comic book superhero artist loves to draw. So.
But I'm sorry.
I was going to say, this premise that there's all these people that have names that are very close to actual superhero names was a really funny idea that Mark had. And Ahoy, being the best comic book company to work for, was okay with it. They weren't worried that they were going to get sued by having a character named Spitterman or Supperman. And so, yeah, I'm so happy with the way that turned out. It's hilarious.
I'm being serious, Peter. The image of the actual Vindicator, that was great. I loved it because, yeah, that's all I'm going to say. So, listeners, if you haven't,
well, can you tell that I like drawing that little pen?
You know what it reminds me of, like all these sort of, especially on the scenes in the news where they show the pictures of the actual superheroes this guy was targeting. It reminds me when you go to like the dollar store and they had all the knockoff facsimiles of the DC and Marvel like toys, where you'd have like Captain Ohio instead of Captain America, or whatever.
I like Captain Ohio. We better use that in the future.
Yeah. Look for a Captain Ohio, kids.
Actually, I'm going to say, Mark, I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off the cuff, but do you guys remember? Well, of course, back in the 80s, they had that, Kenner had that superhero power line. And then I think in Mexico, they repurposed the Green Lantern figure and they put it as the Riddler. But you could actually, you could tell it was the Green Lantern action figure because they still had that ring in, the design on his hand. But
that's hilarious.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry.
No, but I think that's exactly how Mark, that sort of thing. They're these, off-brand superheroes.
All right. So actually Peter, I'm gonna start off with you. Mark and Bryce, just jump in. Out of the 2 volumes, which characters did you guys have, fun drawing or fun writing?
Okay, I've already told Bryce that I have a story idea that I want to write for Legroom, because he's only in that first volume for a couple of pages. And the funny thing is that he's a Canadian superhero, so we riffed off of every Canadian stereotype. He's got like a Paul Bunyan cap on, he's got a full beard, he's wearing hockey breezers and hockey gloves. So he might look a little bit like Mitch Gerads, who's a friend of mine, draws for DC. So he's a really fun character to draw. I've only drawn him those 2 pages, but that's what's fun about this, is that you can have a character that you would think would be a complete throwaway character, and you can have a lot of fun with it.
Yes. And then Mark and Bryce, I mean, besides the Chandelier and the Emperor, which characters did you guys have fun writing for?
Well, I think for me, the ones that I probably thought were the most fun were the ones that weren't trying to make like the centerpiece of a story, that I could just sort of like have show up for a moment and go. Like Tone Deaf is, I think, one of my favorites. He's just this like rap-based, like former rapper who says, incredibly tone deaf things. And then Lion L. Richie, who's like a lion-based superhero bears an uncanny resemblance to a former singing star. These aren't really characters you can build a series around because they're too sort of flat and 2-dimensional, but they're really fun when they show up, and I always love when I can work them in.
I think you could do a Tone Deaf series.
That would be very hard to pull off.
Well,
go ahead, Bryce. I didn't mean to jump on you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that Acid Chimp is a lot of fun to write. Fun to think of ways for him to get acid, to use acid, and he's just a lot of fun. He's probably, when I think about it, the most competent character in the book. He usually, is able to accomplish what he wants to. Yes. Which I love, the fact that the chimp is the most competent character.
Bryce, I'm going to ask you, because in My Bad Volume 2, number 1, like the who's who page of Acid Chimp, did you have fun writing that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've done a couple of those official handbook who's who type pages for my bad, and they're very fun to write. Kind of anything goes, and and also, I'll admit part of the fun also is being able to use those things to fill in other little aspects of the story. Like how did Emperor King acquire Acid Chimp?
Yes.
That's revealed in the handbook page, and so yes, this whole book is incredibly fun to write, including yesterday I was working on a lettering script, which for people that don't know, lettering script is after the art's done, then the writer looks at the art and the script again and sees if they want to make any changes. And yesterday I was working on issue 4, and the way that Peter had drawn some of the scenes gave me ideas on how to improve things and actually change things a little bit based on the art. And it was incredibly fun. I was sitting there giggling, thinking about how Pete's art was inspiring me to improve some of the jokes. So it's a fun process. This is a fun book to work
on. Let's see.
Yeah, I think it's, I work on several titles, and this is easily the most fun one I have. I mean, I love them all. They're like children, but this is like the fun kid, if there is such a thing.
Peter, I'm going to ask, do you want to add anything to that before I start continue on my questions?
Well, I just wanted to say that, right now I'm working on the very last part of the story on the last issue, and things kind of come to a climax as things do. And I've been thinking about how to do this for so long. It definitely is coming a little slower than the rest of the book because of everything that happens. But it's like, this is going to be a big challenge. And then once you kind of get into it and kind of unlock that visual puzzle of how you're going to do it, you go, oh yeah, I see how this is going to work. And that's incredibly exciting.
Yes, okay. All right.
We ask a lot of Peter, and and he does a phenomenal job of
it's a hard
solving those creative challenges.
As much fun as it is for Bryce and I, it's a hard, make it hard on Peter. It's a hard comic to draw.
I love you guys.
We love you too.
He deserves an Eisner just for like putting up with like the demands that the scripts place on him, frankly.
Yeah.
Before I continue, off the cuff, I'm going a little bit off script. Bryce, I want to say thank you very much for sending me the link to like a preview sample of issue number 2. There's a couple scenes in there that actually I love, and because there's like a character, it's like the common folk people, and then there's a couple sitting on the couch watching the news, and someone says "Holy Toledo." I'm just asking, did you guys include that in as a reference for Peter, because Peter worked on the Shazam series, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Peter. You worked on the Shazam series back in the 90s?
Boy, you are correct. And did I get a credit in the Shazam movie? I did not. So,
yeah.
No, 3.5 years on Power Shazam was a lot of fun.
Because I just saw that, I was like, Holy Toledo, when the guy says Holy Toledo, I'm like,
no, it was not like really, it was not really written with that in mind, but it's great that you can make that connection.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I just thought of that. Sorry. Okay, sorry, I'm going to move on my questions so I can start wrapping things up. Now, in this volume, you guys, will Jamington be able to return to the Big Bologna sandwich shop?
No, he's permanently banned.
Oh no! Spoilers!
It's not just
spoilers.
Yeah, no, it's not just Jamington. It's also the Chandelier. He's banned twice. Both his identities are banned.
All right. In this volume, Will Yates, now listen to this, Jamington / the Chandelier's butler, will Yates be doing any more quote unquote dusting?
I wouldn't rule it out. He likes a well-dusted library.
He's a red-blooded man.
That was one of my favorite scenes to draw, by the way. I thought I nailed that panel. That was...
You did. Hilarious panel.
Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna just continue moving on. I'm slowly wrapping things up. This part here, I'm joking. If there is a My Bad Volume 3, if that gets approved, will we see like new characters like Jovan Musk?
There will be new characters. I can't really promise much more than that, but yeah, if there is a volume 3, there will definitely be some new characters. Maybe Captain Ohio will make his debut.
There we go.
Yeah, there will definitely be new characters. I have an invisible character that I couldn't fit into volume 2 that I would really like to fit into volume 3 if he'll fit there. Mm-hmm. I think it could be pretty fun. So yeah.
Wow, an invisible character. I'm looking forward to drawing
that. Yeah, that should be easy, right?
Absolutely.
That's going to be the variant cover, right? You know, My Bad Volume 3 is just a blank cover, you know?
Yeah. Pete can draw it at conventions and just sign his name and say he's done.
Yeah.
Or actually, Peter, you can go, well, why are you guys handing me this blank cover? I already drew on this already here, you know? Here's another character, you know, you guys could think of using. Major Announcement, you know? Play on Major Force. Yeah, sure. You know,
I actually had created a character once. I've never used him, but he was like a psychoanalyst in the army, and his name was Major Breakthrough, and he like does these really ill-advised schemes to like sort of like get people to have these major psychological breakthroughs.
Oh, that sounds pretty awesome. All right, I'm joking on this part. Now, will there be a My Bad Crisis event?
You know, not in volume 3, but if we keep doing this for years, yeah, that sort of thing, a Secret Wars,
seems inevitable. Yeah,
yeah, seems like that will happen at some point.
All right, now I'm slowly.
I don't want to scare Peter too much, though.
I'm not a young man, Bryce.
Hey, Peter, can you squeeze in, you know, 10 heroes in this one panel, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we've got panels like that at the end of this one, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask, you know, seriously, you know, do you guys want to do any shout outs to the rest of the creative team on this series?
Yeah, I think Peter mentioned Kelly, who does Kelly Fitzpatrick, who does the art or does the coloring, and she does a phenomenal job on the coloring. And yeah, anyone else you guys want to? And of course, I think we already mentioned Hannah, who does the publicity. Tom Pyre, obviously the editor. He's the steam that makes our boat go. So
yeah, and Rob Steen does a really nice job with the titles and the lettering. You know, I'm always asking him to create, you know, logos for all these crazy characters, and he does a wonderful job with all that.
And then Joe Orzak, who does the little additional stories and insets in there, and actually the visual creator of Mr. Adams there, Mark's you know, favorite. So yeah, it's a great team.
Okay.
It is.
All right. Now, Peter, Mark, and Bryce, are there any upcoming projects that you guys can talk about?
I will say that I've got like there's a season, not only of season 3 of Second Coming coming out from Ahoy, but also we've been approved for a season 4. So a lot more Second Coming.
Okay.
And I've got a couple things that I'm doing with Ahoy that haven't been announced yet. Okay. So yeah, and I have a lot of things going on right now that haven't been announced yet, so I can't really talk about it, but I'm excited that things are in the pipeline and will be coming out in the next new year.
When I get done with this issue, I'm going back to work with Chip Mosher. We have a follow-up. It's not a sequel, but we did a crime graphic novel together that was called Blacking Out. We did a Kickstarter for that. We've got another story that I've started some of the artwork for. I can't mention the title, but again, it's another kind of hard-boiled crime book. I do have something else from Ahoy coming out. Hasn't been announced. I haven't seen a script yet. Then I have been approached by another publisher to do a story. And again, that it's going to be a short story, 8 to 10 pages. That'll be announced sometime in the next year. And then I have the Irredeemable miniseries that I'm working on with Mark Wade. Again, I haven't seen a script yet, and probably that won't be until later in 2023. It'll be at least a 4-issue miniseries, is my understanding, that'll follow up on the Irredeemable characters that we got nominated for Eisners for about 10 years ago.
Oh, okay. Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for sharing that. Next con or store signing appearance?
I'm going to be at WonderCon in LA in March.
Yeah, Emerald City in Seattle. That's March as well, right, Mark?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then Peter, what about you?
No cons.
Okay. No, yeah. All right.
Unless somebody wants to fly me someplace. I don't have anything planned for next year.
Peter, trust me, I'm going to make this clear. I don't know any of the convention organizers down here, but hopefully when I send them emails to invite you guys out, hopefully they listen,
Yeah, hook us up. Get us invited out to Hawaii.
Yes.
The whole My Bad team.
There you go.
We're ready.
Jason, you live in a beautiful, beautiful part of the world.
Oh, thank you very much. But Peter, I'm going to say, because there's a couple times when you post pictures of when you go walking in your area, I love it because it's the nice snowy area, because it's obvious, in Hawaii we don't have snow, but it's always nice to visit. It's always nice to see that. So yeah.
Well, thank you. It's that's actually, we have a small family cabin up in northern Minnesota, and a lot of those pictures that I take are on my walks up there.
But it's very nice. So, all right. Last question. Do you guys want to add anything before I wrap this up?
I just want to thank everyone who's taking a chance on My Bad, and hope people like the new volume.
Yeah, and that thanks again for having us on. And if you want to read a comic book that is going to make you smile, make you laugh, make you feel good, I think that My Bad's a good bet. We hope everyone enjoys the new season.
I'll just repeat what those guys have said. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to work on, and I think the work shows that we enjoy it, and hopefully that carries on when people read it.
Yes. Okay. Bryce, Mark, and Peter, mahalo. Thank you for your time, for giving me another opportunity to interview all of you. And I wish you guys all the success for My Bad Volume 2. I also want to thank Hannah Superfan Promotions for help setting up this interview and the advanced copy. So Hannah, thank you very much. If you are a new comic book reader or a lifelong comic book reader, please check out My Bad Volume 2. Now, issue 1 is already out in stores. I've read the advanced copy. I love it. It's really fun. It's like we've said and we talked about, it's a love letter to superheroes. It really is. And I'm going to be honest, depending on when this interview is released, of course, issue 1 is out. Issue 2 is already probably out in stores right now. Issue 3 will be in shops on January 25th of 2023. I'm also going to encourage listeners to please check out My Bad Volume 1, Important New Superhero Universe Trade. It's out in stores right now. I love this. I love the first volume because, again, it's a love letter to super. It pokes fun at the superhero genre. It's a love letter. The other thing I love about it too is that, it not only pokes fun at the superhero genre, but there's really an undertone of a nice story underneath all of this. Like, as for example, like there's two characters who are totally different that becomes friends in the end. And also too, Peter's art. Peter, said that he's the straight man in this. His art is amazing. It's really great. So please check it out. I want to thank Drew, the co-host of Comics for Fun and Profit, for putting this episode together. Drew, thank you very much for all your hard work behind the scenes. And if you are a new listener, please check out new episodes of Comics for Fun and Profit that comes out every Saturday. And I want to thank you, the listeners. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening to this episode. Until next time, guys. Aloha.
As you know, our LCS is Cowabunga Comics, Lake Country, Wisconsin's best pop culture destination for new comics, back issues, gaming, retro video games, vinyl, and figures. Give them a call, 262-569-9999. Check them out online at cowabungacomics.com or follow them on Twitter at Incredicow. They are our LCS, and we utilize their deep discount mail order service to bring Oconomowoc, Wisconsin closer to us. They'll take care of you. Tell them Drew and Kyle sent you. Say hi to Eric and James from us. If you need an LCS, you can't go wrong with Cowabunga Comics.